So we've been talking a lot about the Russell 2000 and basically how much correlated it is to the actual altcoins. It's basically the altcoins of the stock market, right? And people, I think, kind of natively understand that it's correlated, but I don't think people understand just how much it's correlated. And we've been talking a lot about this triple top here. And today on my live stream, someone really forced me to go in on it with their curiosity. They weren't being nasty or malicious. They were skeptical and curious, which I think is a very good combination. But they forced me to really expand on my idea, and in doing so, it might have uncovered something very good. So this is potentially triple top at this point. And then I said that this is the highest point since November. And then it's also the highest point since November of 2021. And this person wisely pointed out, because we were looking at it like this, that, well, November was the end of alt season, not the beginning. And then I said, well, I zoomed out a little bit and said, yes, but this was like very textbook Wyckoff distribution. And, this isn't a meme coin, and you can make the argument that crypto doesn't behave like Wyckoff, which I would argue very strongly against that. But certainly, stock market and the Russell and the S&P definitely does Wyckoff accumulation, Wyckoff distribution. And so we zoomed out and we talked about this being the buying climax, and then that you also had many signs that this was a distribution. You had your buying climax, your upthrust, your UTAD, which was literal textbook of Wyckoff distribution, about as clean as it gets. And we also had a very big bearish divergence forming as we were going into distribution, as this was going there. But the buying climax, we had this big run up from the C19 crash, right? Which was the spring in the market, and it sprung us into the buying climax. This was the start of alt season. And then the Russell went into distribution from the previous 2018 high to the C19 low. Went into distribution at the 1618 almost perfectly, slightly above, but the base of the move was at the 1618 before going down into accumulation and then doing it again. Okay, so then I made the argument. This, to me, even if it's just going to distribute here, that would be the beginning. But actually, this spring right here, the April, which I've said many times as far as Bitcoin, was, that this was clear Wyckoff accumulation, and we had the big scary event of the spring in Wyckoff, which was the tariff event. I've made that case many times. I'm not going to hash it out right this second, but basically, this to me was the C19 spring as far as in a structural Wyckoff standpoint. And then I got to thinking, like, my God, not only is this the same moment, but my God, hold up. Not only is it the same moment, but look, I pulled a fractal from the C19 crash to this run up to the 1618 into distribution, which the beginning of the buying climax was the beginning of alt season. The end, the UTAD, was the end. Look at this. My God. Not only is it like perfect, but even it's insane. It doesn't even make sense how perfect it is. Like, even the little pullbacks are the same. So I would make the argument at this point. This is, very close to that like critical level of saying that we're going to break out. But even if it distributes, it would be the beginning of euphoria, in my opinion. But what I actually think is going to happen is this right here. That is what I think is going to happen, because even when you consider, 2020, 80% of all the money that exists today was printed from that time. So $1 is not $1 today, as it was yesterday. But this is very, I mean, this to me, the April tariffs was clearly, especially for Bitcoin, the spring in Wyckoff. And the fact that we're here fighting with this now, the fact that it has the exact same structure, to me, holds the key. And then the fact that the buying climax from March through the UTAD of November, it's like not only is it correlated to crypto and the altcoins, and we knew this, but it's like seeing it so black and white is a very profound thing. So I thought I would share this with you guys. Very, very encouraging as far as where we're at in the charts as well. Because Bitcoin dominance looks weak to me. Bitcoin looks strong. Ethereum looks strong. Solana looks strong. Others' dominance looks strong. Everything looks strong. And this right here is maybe one of the craziest pulls so far. We'll see if this continues to hold. Even if it doesn't, I think that's great too. That just means it's like actually starting for real right now. But this would have us into Euphoria, the beginning of Euphoria into November, and basically the end. If this were timing, I'm looking more at structure rather than the actual timing of it all. But this would have us into March. But we'll see. We'll see if this continues to play. If this continues to play, perhaps one of the craziest finds. I do think that it aligns with, the macro theory of what I was been thinking. This would have us basically at the 1618 at the buying climax in the end of October, and then into November just being pandemonium.